Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, is Indiana facing a housing drought? IU and Purdue are part of a major cybersecurity effort. A language training center is growing its footprint. IU Health rolls out a mobile stroke treatment unit. PNC looks to boost financial literacy in children. Yelp celebrates the best of the Midwest food scene. And our panel of insiders takes a look at the biggest news stories of the week. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. The residential housing market in Indiana could be on the verge of a drought. There are reports that available inventories are down more than 30% in several Hoosier cities. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services broker Greg Cooper joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to give his take on the hot housing market.
You are a busy guy. Men in your industry are. Have you ever seen a market this crazy?
Multiple decades of doing this, as I have, Gary, and I've never seen it like this. Last year we had a taste. This year the gap has widened, and it's much more universal in terms of its craziness.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about it. Is there an inventory drought?
I don't hear it called that, but I sure would call it that.
Yeah.
There are so few houses for so many people. When you have multiple offers over and over and over again on similar priced properties, I don't know how you call it anything but a drought.
Is it accelerating? Is it getting worse?
I would say it is right now. I think later in the year things will ease back a little bit, but we are in the peak of the seasonal market across the state of Indiana right now, which absolutely means the maximum number of home buyers competing for the minimum number of properties right now. I think right now, if anything, it's getting faster than it was in January.
Yeah, seller's market. Give us some examples, and this is certainly not limited to central Indiana. This is all over the state. Talk about this.
Well, if you have a house that especially meets the true demands of the market, it's updated, it has maybe a craftsman style, some of those gray tones that everybody finds really attractive right now. We've had houses in different places in Indiana that are getting 5 and 6 and 7, 8, 9 offers. And on one particular property I'm familiar with individually, we had 6 of the 9 offers had escalation clauses, which means buyers were agreeing to just throw extra money into their offer under no uncertain terms up to a limit, which just becomes crazy.
Yeah, let's talk about prices, because the housing prices here, it sounds more like California than the Midwest.
Yeah, you never see in Indiana where median housing prices go up 12% in a quarter year over year. That just doesn't ever happen. Dozens of Indiana counties in the first 3 months of 2018 saw double-digit median price escalations from 2017.
And new construction, for those looking to buy new, those costs have escalated as well.
It's kind of 10th grade economics. The costs of resale have gone way up. People bidding on properties driving them above list. So the cost of new construction has gone up because we have a greater demand, and materials and labor get more expensive as well.
Where do you see this going? So many factors play into this when it comes to mortgage rates. Where do you see it going?
Mortgage rates, as we all know, are affected by a lot of different things. It's not just the prime rate being raised by the Federal Reserve. So there are going to be a whole bunch of factors as the year wears on that will probably contribute to a little bit higher mortgage rates, depending on how high those go. Eventually, probably later 2018, we're going to see demand slide back, and we may see a little bit better balance, but it's not going to be fixed completely this year.
Okay, advice, and I know the advice is different for buyers and sellers. First of all, if you're a buyer, if you want to hop in the market and buy something, what's your advice?
2 things. You have to have somebody who really knows their stuff helping you, because this is not a market for a buyer who has the faint of heart. You need to have someone who knows what they're doing, and you have to be prepared. If you're looking at a highly positive price point, 150,000, whatever, 200,000, whatever you may be in your geography, or you're looking for a very popular price point, you need to have the patience to understand you may have to bid on 2 or 3 or 4 houses before you get one bought. Know that going in, and just maintain your cool, and don't get terribly upset if the first one isn't perfect for you.
How about on the seller side?
Well, many sellers just think all I got to do is put a sign up, but it's not quite that simple, because you need to price in a way that the appraisal on the home has to come in as well, because appraisals right now are slow to catch up with sale prices. If an appraisal comes in way below sales price, what do? That's been a real problem for a lot of people, though, so far in the first quarter.
Greg Cooper, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Indiana. Great perspective on a crazy market, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this later. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
All right.
Still to come, a language training center is doubling its footprint and a new tool in treating strokes. But first, several Big Ten universities, including Indiana University and Purdue, have launched a first-of-its-kind cybersecurity operations center. OmniSoc provides subscribers with intelligence to help them respond to cyber threats. IU Chief Information Officer Brad Wheeler and Purdue Chief Information Security Officer Greg Hedrick came in studio to detail the effort.
Brad, I'll start with you. The OmniSoc, this cyber research center, How did it come about?
It came about, I took a trip to Israel to their big cybersecurity conference in 2016. I often tell people I went over scared and came home terrified when I saw the game had really changed. And the following month we were meeting with the Big Ten chief information security officers. We looked into the horizon, how we were all going to deal with securing our universities, and we decided there was an opportunity to do something together.
And this is very much sector specific. So this is focused on higher education, right?
Absolutely. So we're all facing common risks out there, bad stuff going around. You see it on the news every day. But when something bad happens, how is your sector going to respond? So K through 12 or city county government, a pharmaceutical company, a bank, a hospital, they're going to respond somewhat different. They have a lens, they have a risk tolerance. In higher ed, we have a similar set of rules of engagement, and we can trust each other to share information in real time.
Greg, talk about how this center will work. The center is housed at IU, and when you look at higher education, tens of thousands of students with multiple devices. You said on average 7 devices per student, right?
On average 7. We have about 100,000 connections on a daily basis just to our wireless network. So yeah, a lot of data.
So how will this center really focus in on threats and keeping universities and students and faculty safe?
So one of the things we currently have is Security Operations Center at Purdue, as does IU. The idea is to bring this together in an omni-SOC sort of way so that we have 24/7, eyes on glass, looking at threats, looking at vulnerabilities, being able to contact us and take care of those threats and vulnerabilities in a quick way.
This is 5 universities, IU, Purdue, Northwestern, Nebraska, Rutgers. How important is collaboration to the success of this whole?
Collaboration is critical. One of the reasons why collaboration is critical from my perspective is you have to, once you get all this data together, the more data that you have available to you, it gives you an opportunity to identify something that might be happening at IU, for example, before it targets us.
Yeah.
So we're able to get ahead of the curve much quicker.
I think it's notable too, Brad, that to have this center headquartered in Indiana, right?
Absolutely. This is another great opportunity for jobs in Indiana. We have the Global Network Operations Center, runs networks for higher ed and the National Sciences Foundation. We've got over 120 network engineers. Those jobs could have been elsewhere, but we did them here in Indiana. So in partnership with Purdue, when we talked to our other universities, they said, yeah, let's put that in Indiana. Good labor availability, good education, good cost of living, and I think the Cybersecurity Operations Center could grow to hundreds of jobs over time.
Well, we only have about 20 seconds, but can this be a model for other folks as you look at this? And this cyber threat obviously isn't going to go away. Can this be a model for other folks?
I think it can, and I worry greatly about city, county government, libraries, K through 12, rural hospitals. I think sectors need to come together and learn to share data and information about threats and vulnerabilities in real time.
Well, OmniSOC, a new cyber research center based right here in the state of Indiana. Brad Wheeler, Greg Hedrick, thanks very much. Another partnership between Purdue and IU as well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right.
Later in the podcast, IU Health takes stroke treatment mobile, and PNC unveils a student-run bank. But now, from the San Francisco Giants to WWE superstars, Indianapolis-based LTC Language Solutions has been helping with translation, interpretation, and cultural education for a quarter century. Now the company is growing its employee base and its central Indiana headquarters. CEO Martin George has more on LTC's growth.
Well, let's talk about your business. I just mentioned a 70% increase in your space here in central Indiana. You're adding jobs as well. So a commitment to Indiana. What's driving the growth?
You know, I think we've all seen technology really take over, and that can be, you know, the curse of death for some, or you have to look at it as an opportunity to grow. And I think what we did is we really embraced the Indiana workforce, the great values here of people coming to work, doing their job, and then we put technology over it to be able to do interpreting by phone, video, and even an app now. So that's really driven a lot of the growth.
We'll talk about some of the sectors you're in, including sports. But how have you seen the landscape change here in Indiana from a global perspective, and the companies and kinds of companies doing jobs and needing translation services for employees and others for presentations?
Yeah, when we started 25 years ago, it was Lilly, Roche, a few of these companies who really had expats coming in and out. Today, I would say almost every business in Indiana could use our services in some way, whether they're sourcing product, they want to translate a handbook or a manual, and we're even getting into things like American Sign Language.
Well, and as we were talking off camera, a big driver now is conference interpreting.
Yeah,
right?
We have a robust conference center here in Indianapolis, and we really see a lot of visitors who come. They need it interpreted into their language, so they sit there with the headsets. But we have an app now that can also do that. So interpreters can be here in Indiana. They can stay at home, and the technology allows us to broadcast in their language at any conference center anywhere. But we've doubled down on Indiana, and we're happy for that.
A lot of different sectors you're into: hospitality, manufacturing, conferences, education, sports. And I think this is interesting. The San Francisco Giants, WWE, the big wrestling organization.
Right, and they're going to have their WrestleMania soon.
Right.
John Cena has been studying with us for over 3 years, and really he came to us because WWE said, we made our business $1 billion almost in the U.S. We want to go to China and do that. So they brought Chinese talent, other talent from around the world. We train them in languages, and we train them in culture so that they're appropriate when they step in the ring. But it's not always just about being in the ring. You have to talk to fans. You have to talk to sponsors. You have to be out there doing on-camera interviews and things like that. And if you can't do it, and WWE goes to 18 countries now, including China, so they really need to be able to do a little bit in other languages.
As we wrap up, I think it is interesting, as you look at growth going forward, you're talking about teaching language and presentation skills, kind of first language skills. Right?
Yeah, you have to innovate, don't you? And you got to be at the cutting edge. So what we heard a lot from our clients was, can you help with anyone, not just non-native speakers, but we need help with reading and writing and even presentation skills for anyone. So we're going to be getting into that next quarter. We're excited about it.
All right. LTC Language Solutions continues to grow here in central Indiana and beyond. Martin George, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on 25 years.
Thank you.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, PNC doubles down on financial literacy in students, and Yelp celebrates the best of Midwest restaurants. But now, IU Health is rolling out its new mobile stroke treatment unit, which it says will change the way stroke care is delivered in the state. Stroke is the fourth leading cause of death in Marion County and the number one cause of long-term disability in the U.S. Program Director Jason Mackey talked about the mobile unit in the Business of Health with Kylie Valletta.
Well, when you really get down to it, the key piece of equipment on this new unit is the CT scanner. So explain why that is such an important thing to have in the field.
So there are two different kinds of strokes. There's an ischemic stroke where a blood vessel is blocked off by a clot, and then there's a hemorrhagic stroke or a bleeding stroke. The problem is you can't tell the difference clinically or with any sort of lab test between the two. And you couldn't give a clot buster to a bleeding kind of stroke. So you've got to have imaging to tell you which kind of stroke are we dealing with.
And typically that imaging could only happen at the hospital. You had to transport the patient to the hospital, right?
That's right. The usual way this goes is a patient or their family calls 911, they get transported to the emergency department, and then they're evaluated. The thing about the mobile stroke units is that across multiple communities, these have been shown to reduce the time to treatment by 30 minutes or more. And with an association of 2 million neurons per minute, we're talking about a lot of brain cells and the potential to get people back in their communities, back to their homes, back to their work.
It can make a major difference in the outcome.
Yeah.
Okay, another key piece of this unit is that it's stocked with TPA, the clot-busting drug. So now you can administer that, again, it doesn't have to be at the hospital.
That's right. We can do the entire evaluation in the field, at somebody's driveway, their place of work, etc. So if a patient looks like a possible candidate, we can do any necessary labs, do the full neurologic evaluation, get the imaging, and then if that person is a potential candidate, put them into the ambulance and treat them there prior to transport to the emergency department.
And a really neat aspect of this too is the staff that is going to be on the unit. Tell us about that.
Right, so a usual ambulance has a paramedic and an EMT, and this ambulance will have that as well. But this ambulance will also have a CT technician who can help make sure the CT happens properly, a stroke-trained nurse, and then a vascular neurologist. So you have a vehicle that's just packed with a lot of expertise.
And you mentioned in the future the neurologist may not have to be on the unit because it's so high tech. So tell me about how the neurologist can be there without physically being there.
Right. So there are multiple cameras in the ambulance such that you can toggle between the head or the foot, and really evaluate not just the patient, but then also you can see the actual CT scan. And this is, from a web browser, from an iPhone or an iPad. It's really something.
And also, this is going to initially just serve Marion County.
That's right. So we'll probably start small. This is a new paradigm of care, so we'll start small, and then we hope to expand to include all of Indianapolis. And
$1.5 million for the startup costs, and you said these are being funded in sort of a unique way.
Well, so there's no funding mechanism for this sort of paradigm as yet. There's no payer mechanism. And so across the country, these are by and large funded via philanthropy. And so we had the good fortune of a substantial gift from the IU Health Foundation to get this up and running. And then the IU School of Medicine and IU Health also help with the operational costs.
And you wanted to be sure to mention the symptoms of a stroke, just as a public health.
That's right. So if you or a family member, this is always what we tell people, if you or a family member are having signs or symptoms of a stroke, face drooping, arm weakness, trouble with speech, to call 911. And that is, the acronym is FAST, F-A-S-T, face, arm, speech, and time. Call 911 immediately.
Right, and then the unit also saving time as well.
That's right.
So thank you, Dr. Mackey, for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Later in the podcast, Yelp's Best of the Midwest and our panel of insiders takes on the week's top stories. But now, PNC Bank is teaming up with IPS Schools to launch PNC's first school bank program in Indianapolis. William McKinley School number 39 will house an in-school bank staffed by student tellers, where students can open accounts and make deposits. Regional President Connie Bond Stewart discussed the initiative in our Eye on Education segment.
Financial Literacy Month, and PNC as an institution, as a bank, bank-wide, has focused on education, in particular early education, for a number of years, right?
That's correct. We actually launched this over a decade ago in 2004 because we saw there was a real need to improve the number of high-quality schools available for children, especially underserved children.
Yeah. Want to talk about the push that you're very involved with, too, and that's early childhood education in Indiana and getting more young people involved. But first of all, the PNC Grow Up Great program, $350 million initiative, been around since 2004, and a lot of programs here in Indiana have been impacted. More than 150 programs have been impacted. You were in Wayne Township here in Indianapolis this week, reading to school children. Talk about the program and how it's impacting these very young children and the importance of getting at children at this young age.
Well, up to 80-90% of a child's brain is formed by the time they're 5. So that is a critical stage for children. In addition, what we've done here in the past, and we've always done this, is encouraged our employees to volunteer up to 40 hours per year, paid time off, and then we will match their volunteer hours with grants to these preschools, which are high-quality preschools where the majority of the children are underserved. And so they're getting the reward of personal fulfillment as well as financial dollars going to help support this. This month of April is one when we really have an extra boost around early ed. And so this particular month we've chosen to identify and celebrate what we call teacher heroes. Last year, we partnered with a nonprofit organization called DonorsChoose.org. And so teachers can go into DonorsChoose.org, submit their projects for consideration for funding, and through that, last year, since we've launched it, we've actually supported 152 DonorsChoose.org projects. And we were at Wayne Township, and across our footprint, we celebrated these teacher heroes yesterday. And the Wayne Township preschools were really amazing. They have a wonderful staff. And we identified one of their teachers who received $4,000 from PNC Foundation, half of which is going to her own projects, and the other half she'll use to seed her colleagues' projects. And we gave her colleagues another $1,600 of their own to work with.
Yeah, and the funding is really helping get these very young boys and girls access to technology, hands-on, tablets, all kinds of really cool things.
Oh, it's amazing what they're doing with these children. Of course, we got to spend some time with the children and talk to the teachers. And to give an example, at Wayne Township, their preschool has a lot of children with challenges. And so, for example, with the iPads, children that normally would have difficulty because they're autistic can communicate and learn in a way that they otherwise would not be able to without that technology. We also saw these children programming. It's learn through play, these little robotic toys. So they can actually teach them, by learning how to program by hitting buttons. For example, how to move forward, 3 steps. And very interactive. The children are wide-eyed, and they're so appreciative of these teachers who make such a big difference in their lives.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you about early childhood education. There's a big push, obviously, in the state of Indiana. Private sector, you're one of the big leaders in the state. Next year is a budget writing session at the Indiana State House. How critical is that for this push to get more access to early childhood?
It's a really critical year. Next year is a budget year, as you said, and we have to have funding in order to continue to support the programs we have in the state. We're in 20 counties out of 92. We need to expand it, and we need to continue to support the programs we have in high-need areas, large population here in the central part of the state that we need to secure funding for going forward. So it's a very important year.
No doubt a big story we'll be covering in the months ahead. Connie Bond-Stewart, Regional President at PNC. Thanks very much, and thanks again for your leadership on these programs.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Still to come, insight on the week's top stories from our panel of insiders. But first, Yelp has put together what it calls a database list of the best places to eat in the Midwest. Hoosier State restaurants on the list span Indiana from Geist Reservoir and Danville to Jeffersonville and Merrillville. Midwest Regional Director Brittany Smith breaks it down in our Trendiana segment.
So actually, I said an annual. You do an annual state list.
Yes.
This is the first time Yelp has really done a Midwest list.
Yes.
And the important note here is this is really data driven. Right?
Yes, exactly. So we take an algorithm, we look at the review ratings and the number of reviews, all based on 2017 reviews that we're rolling in. And then through that data, it's the places that locals like to go. It's not just one person's opinion, it's crowdsourced.
All right, let's look at the Indiana restaurants. There are 10 on the list. I think we're going to hit on 6 of those. Very diverse group of restaurants, starting here in Indianapolis, out in the Geist area, St. Yared Ethiopian restaurant, right?
Yes. This is a beautiful restaurant. I was telling you, as someone that moved here to work for Eli Lilly, stemmed into a new business right there in the Geist area. You can come in, eat family style, try something new culturally, eating with your hands. They actually have a coffee shop on site as well, where they're importing ingredients and items from Ethiopia for the business.
Sounds like he's got quite a business.
Yes, he does. Very impressive.
All right, let's go out west to Danville and the Bread Basket Cafe and Bakery.
Yes, this business is a hot spot in Hendricks County. They're using local eggs, local milk. They're known for their cinnamon French toast, a good way to kick the day off. And then just making a lot of great cakes and pies, all under one roof.
There's a growing international marketplace in flavor on the west side, kind of near northwest side, if you will, of Indianapolis, Lafayette Square area, and you visited Chapati.
Yes, this area is just chock full of diversity as far as places to eat. A lot of them are top reviews on Yelp, and Chapati specifically is known for their eggplant masala. They're taking 24 hours to really marinate the eggplant. You can come in there and try something new. They're great with dietary restrictions. It's a really fun and delicious restaurant.
All right, very much a statewide flavor to these restaurants. Northwest Indiana and Maryville, Roxana's restaurant.
Yes, this business is known for their lamb kebab special. They're also known for their meat dumplings. I think one of the things that's really unique about this list is you're like, in Maryville, you're not expecting some of these dishes, but it's true. People love it, and they're looking for diversity in their cuisine.
Okay, sounds like a road trip to Maryville,
That's
maybe in the future. Let's go to the complete opposite side of the state in southeast Indiana, Jeffersonville, growing area in the Louisville region, Urban Bread Company.
Yeah, Urban Bread Company is another one that's known for offering those hearty options, offering something vegan, and then they're also known for their bread roti. So if you're looking to try something new, I recommend bookmarking all of these businesses and hopping your way around.
All right, and last on the list, but certainly not least, and I think we have some samples here. I can smell Hank's Smoked Briskets in the Crown Hill area here in Indianapolis.
Just 2 miles north of the studio, right along Crown Hill Cemetery. So if you've been there before, right by the IMA Art Museum, you can pop in. It's very much a carry-out setting. Came from Texas, really got those true Southern barbecue roots, and the Yelp reviews just love this business.
Yeah, I only have about 20 seconds, but any recurring themes that you see?
Diversity, for sure. If people are looking to try something new, it's not just those gastropubs or places that cost $40 per meal.
Right.
These are budget-friendly options. You can take your whole family.
Yeah, great. And that's a great point. Diverse offerings, affordable offerings,
exactly.
too. Brittany Smith, as always, some great restaurants, great insights. Yelp's best restaurants in the Midwest. It's a great list. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Gary.
All right.
And finally this week, our panel of insiders offers perspective on the week's top stories. This week's guests include Fagery Baker Daniels partner Murray Clark, Indianapolis Deputy Mayor of Economic Development Angela Smith-Jones, and Mike Harmless of Harmless Consulting.
We start with housing. That was our top story this week. Greg Cooper from Berkshire Hathaway Home Services said it's the 30-plus years in the market. He hasn't seen anything like this. The inventory, he says, is a drought, and it's getting worse. It's accelerating. Mike, is there downside? We're seeing prices go up in 30 counties or so around the state.
Yeah, well, in Putnam County, I talked to Eric Wolf, who's the #1 realtor in Putnam County, and he said the market's just so unbelievably hot that houses are staying on about 2 days. Generally, people are paying above the listing price. He's certainly talking to builders to try to make sure that they measure this. They don't overbuild, but they work to try to meet the demand.
Any chance this could be a negative? We're attracting companies, or bringing folks in to work in companies, attracting folks in the market. That rising housing prices, affordability is one of the pluses of Indianapolis and Indiana. Could this kind of turn things?
Well, we need to increase the supply, I think, But we've talked about this kind of growth in central Indiana. That kind of different, exciting part, as Mike said, is it's statewide. Yeah. And so it says a lot about, the state and the policies, the public policy the state has had. It also might say something about the regional cities or give us some insight as to the regional cities' successes.
Yeah, your take, Angela. Indianapolis, again, a lot of companies, Infosys among them, bringing folks in.
Well, I think as we're looking at those who are coming into the city from the coast, right, this is still a steal. If you're able to sell a home for $1.2 million and buy one, elevate it to us, but really reasonable and affordable for them. So I think it's going to continue to help our economy to grow and to continue to attract those from around the nation. Certainly
housing a big part of the economy in Indiana and elsewhere. A lot of attention, Murray, being placed on global issues and tariffs potentially being meted out to certain countries and the prospect for a quote-unquote trade war. Agriculture and other industries a little nervous. Are you nervous that this potential trade war could impact Indiana in a negative way?
Well, I think there's some anxiety out there. I've heard Congresswoman Walorski mention some things. Certainly in her district, northern part of the state, agriculture. I'm actually optimistic, though, that the trade policies will work out in the end, so they won't be harmful to Indiana. But I am a little anxious about it.
Yeah, and soybeans and pork and all the wonderful exports that we export to all over the world, and so I'm really worried about it. But I'm hopeful, as Murray is. I just hope that there'll be cooler heads and they'll sit down and figure it out and make it equitable.
Mike, I'll ask this of you because there's some concern in the auto industry as well, but one place where there seems to be a lot of good news is in Lafayette at Subaru of Indiana Automotive. Another record year that seems they can't make Subarus fast enough there, and they've grown that plant up there to well over 5,000 people.
Absolutely, and all of the different companies that provide parts and so on. We got 2 of them in Greencastle that they can't get enough employees. So, in Subaru, it's all about their quality and it's all about their retailers. They just do a great job. It's a highly safe vehicle, and I think their sales are going to continue to grow.
Big year at the short session and mixed reviews on the legislative session this year. The Indiana Chamber of Commerce came out with less than a stellar review. like all of you to weigh in on this. Angela, your take on this session. Did get Sunday sales.
Right.
That did pass,
Right.
and a lot of people happy about that. But workforce issues passed, but a number of other issues didn't.
Yeah, so the issues that did pass, I kind of agree with what Kevin was saying. They were really important for our state's economy and our local economy, but those glitches actually just didn't really settle well with the rest of us, and like what was really going on, and what are we going to do in the special session to make sure we address the critical needs.
Those.
Yeah, I mean, a huge tax change at the federal level, and it was really disappointing that didn't get done during the regular session. I just wonder what their priorities were. That seems to me it should, as a former, working for Crow Horwath, I mean, it just seemed that was critical all over the state of Indiana, and I was disappointed that it didn't get
The
done.
Chamber's point, too, was, or they talked about after several years of, in their view, very positive outcomes of the legislature, they were a bit disappointed.
Yeah, I'll take a little different slant on this at the risk of being called an apologist for the legislature. Legislature is an easy punching bag. I think the speaker and other leaders were disappointed at the end, but there many things were accomplished. You mentioned workforce development, attention to the opioid crisis, infant mortality, tax exemption on software, which really helps our tech community, and other issues. So I think a lot of things were done well. I think that the special session will be one day, as the governor has suggested, and they'll deal with some issues. And so it is not as big a thing to me.
Okay. Moving on, you talk about software as a service and that legislation affecting the tech industry. Angela, I thought one of the cool stories, actually, of the week involves Salesforce, their philanthropic arm, and Indianapolis Public Schools, the creation of an IT academy. Salesforce donating $500,000 to this IT academy that's going to be involved with internet connections and mobile charging station, new computers.
I think that's phenomenal. I'm really excited about this partnership because what Salesforce is showing, not only tech companies, but every other industry, is that you have to invest in your talent pipeline. And when you're working with K-12 institutions to develop those necessary skill sets, then you win.
Yeah. Underscore, Mike, the importance of having big companies like that in communities.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of those things where, Salesforce is obviously just a spectacular company, and they're showing now that they're going to be a great corporate citizen, and they're going to invest in what matters. And I think it's spectacular.
All right. Indianapolis, Indiana, as a foodie destination. Yes. Who would have thought it a while ago? But a number. It seems like here in central Indiana and in places around the state, lots of new restaurants. Angela, I know I saw you there at the Hedgerow, the opening. Kimball Musk, the restaurateur, who said he loves Indianapolis. Yes. Got 2 restaurants, and I've been hearing rumors there may even be another one, a third one coming online. Your take on Indianapolis in particular as a food destination?
I think we've transitioned over the last decade and a half in an incredible way to really focus on local produce, local proteins, and really giving back to the community, and that's taking us really to a new level with food.
Absolutely, and I love all the different farmers that are providing all the different foods. In Greencastle, when Myers Market opened up, we had a butcher shop in Greencastle. Now they're providing all the butchered items to all the different restaurants. So, I mean, it's all working.
And a lot going around the state. Murray, we were talking about Ruth's Chris opening a restaurant next month in downtown Fort Wayne.
Right. Well, to Angie's comments, great local restaurateurs. Larry Griggers, who's built 2 great steakhouses here, is now going to Fort Wayne. Fort Wayne has a great culinary environment and culture there, too. So.
All right, we've got 30 seconds. I'll give you the last word, Murray, on the Pacers and the playoffs. Now, who would have thought at the beginning of the year that the Pacers would be sniffing the playoffs? They're in the playoffs now, and it's been a surprising year.
Yeah, so I love when you give me these sports questions. Yeah. So we'll sweep the first series. We'll easily take the second one. Probably win the whole thing.
The NBA,
easily.
the NBA championship.
NBA, yeah, you'll see maybe the 2 NBA finalists tonight.
Okay, we have that digitally saved, and we'll play that back. Murray Clark, Angela Smith-Jones, Mike Harmless. Great perspective and predictions as well.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.